I've always wanted to do this. In this video, I'm gonna be showing you how to go from this to this. And I'm gonna be showing you some common mistakes to avoid when you're setting up your video lighting. So this is my normal lighting situation when I come in my office. This is just me flicking on a switch, and this is what I've got. So over here, I've got some sconces on the wall that are that warm tungsten color temperature, and over here I've got some like daylight color temperature type of lights. And the first thing we're gonna wanna do anytime we're setting up lights in a studio is to kill the house lights. All right, now that it's completely pitch black, we need some kind of light to shine on my face, and I've got my light right here that shines in front of me. The light that shines in front of you is called a key light. By the way, all the links to everything that I mentioned in this are gonna be in my description. They are affiliate links. They'll give me a little bit of kickback, but they don't cost you any more to buy from those links. The light that I'm using right now is the Godox VL-150 with a Neewer softbox on it and the grid pattern so that I don't get too much spill on the background. So a couple mistakes you want to avoid when you're setting up your key light is, number one, don't put it directly in front of you or on your camera because it gives you this flat look. What I mean by that is you want to kind of contour your image. You want to give yourself a little bit of shadow on one side. If you can avoid shooting yourself in the front with all that light and having just a flat image, put it off to the side a little bit, usually at about a 45-degree angle this way. And if you've got glasses, you'll probably want it to be about a 45-degree angle up as well, so you don't get that glare in your glasses. And the second mistake is just shooting the light straight out. The Godox VL-150 is a COB light, and if you just put the reflector on and use the light like that, then it's gonna be really, really harsh. And the shadows are gonna just be really harsh lines. So to get that nice fall off from the bright spots to the shadow areas, you're gonna want to use something like a softbox like I have here. And if you wanna get the light off the background or wherever you're shooting, then put this grid pattern on there. It's gonna be brighter without the grid, but using the grid will allow you to control it a little bit more. Moving on to our shoulder light. The light that we have up here is the Godox SL-60. I love this light too, but it's a little bit less powerful and the fan is a little bit more noisy than the Godox VL-150. You might notice that on the background there is a little bit of spill from the light up there, but you'll see later that it doesn't really matter that much. I'm gonna turn my key light back on and talk about some mistakes to avoid when you're lighting from behind like this. One huge mistake that I see all the time is your backlight is just way too strong. I'm going up to 100%. And while it might look cool on me, I've got, I don't have any frizzes or anything like that, so I'm turning this back down. Another mistake that I see a lot of creators make when they're using hair lights is to use colors that don't make sense. So if you're gonna use color in your hair light, make sure that it at least matches or is inspired by lights that are already existing in the scene, or use some common color theory so that you've got some color contrast. And speaking of the background, let's go ahead and turn that on. This is what it looks like when everything is put together, and let me just show you what the background looks like all by itself. So this is the background light. The light that I'm using back here is the Neewer RGB480, and I love this panel light. It came in a set of 2, and I actually take this set all the time to different professional sets because it saves so much space and does a great job. This is what it looks like with just the background light and my hair light. Now let's turn on the key light. And there we go. This is kind of a finished setup, but before we get into adding the other elements of my lighting setup, I wanted to kind of talk about a few mistakes that people make when they're lighting their background with a colored light like this. The first mistake I see people make is that they'll light the entire space instead of just the background. So a lot of times I'll either see people hang their background lights up on light stands and just light the entire area, or I'll see people put it on the floor and just shoot it up, or on the ceiling and just shoot it down. What that does is it lights everything and gives you this ambient tone over the entire space and changes the color temperature of your lighting, which changes your skin tone, and that is what we want to avoid. That's why I'm just shooting this right behind me. It's actually, if I move, you can see the light in the shot. One thing I like about doing it this way is that it gives me a nice gradient that comes in and draws your attention to the center of the screen. All right, so the next part is this light that I've got over here, and I'll turn that on right now. That light is my Viltrox Weeylite RB9. It's a great little pocket light, very similar to the Aperture MC, but this one is brighter and I think more versatile. It's bigger too, so it gives you a nicer fall off if you were to use it as a key light if you were traveling or something like that. The last and final step to this whole thing is you might notice that I've got a little bit of shadow over here. Usually I don't mind, but if it is something that you don't want to have, you could add a second light over here to the side. Again, 45-degree angle, and if you've got glasses, you probably want to put it up about 45 degrees. So 45 degrees out this way, 45 degrees up. But if you don't have the means to either logistically fit another light in your studio, or if you don't have the means monetarily to get another light, you can get 5-in-1 reflector. These things are so versatile and so necessary for any kind of lighting that you're going to be doing. Right now, I'm just gonna clip this up on a light stand right up here. So a few mistakes I see people use when they're using a second light source, and in this case, we're using a reflector as the second light source in front of you, is number one, they'll use a source that's too bright. Again, you don't wanna have even light. You wanna kinda have a sculpted image where you've got some darkness and some light. And using a reflector is a great way to get that. That brings me to mistake number two, which is using the wrong side of the reflector. I see a lot of people using the silver reflector when they should be using the white reflector, and I see a lot of people using the gold reflector when they should be using the silver or, again, the white. Silver is kind of your go-to when it comes to harsh reflector, and white is kind of the go-to when you're wanting to do more of a soft bounce. In this case, I'm using the silver because I've got a big softbox up here as the main source, which is okay to do because I'm still getting more soft light because it's bouncing a soft source and it's not that far away from me. If I zoom out, actually, you can see this entire setup. All right, so up here is the Godox VL-150 with Neewer softbox and grid. Over here, I've got my 5-in-1 reflector coming back at me. Behind me is the Neewer RGB480. Up behind me, I've actually got some rafters up there that I've got mounted my Godox SL-60, and back here is the Viltrox Weeylite RB9. Look guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you learned something, hit that like button and consider subscribing to this channel if you want to see more videos like this. We'll see you in the next video.